Hello everyone, welcome to DSA 441 Cloud Computing. This is the lecture for week 5, that is on the Elastic Compute Service, that is the product of ECS from Alibaba Cloud. So today we are going to see a detailed explanation about Alibaba Cloud's ECS, that is the Elastic Compute Service, and followed by a short demonstration on how to create the ECS instances and how to manage those ECS instances. So to begin with, we see the Alibaba Cloud's portfolio, which lists a lot of products. So this ECS product comes under the Elastic Compute category of cloud infrastructure. So we have this ECS autoscaling reserved instance, and then in the reserved instance we see the container service for Kubernetes, Elastic Container Instance, and then container registry. So these are the products we come across in the Alibaba Cloud's portfolio. Elastic Compute Service as a product, it has a single instance availability of 99.975% and multi-zone instances. Like if it is created in multiple zones, then the availability increases to 99.995%. And today it is in around more than 24 regions. It's 22 regions is like few months ago, and now it is like 24 plus regions, and the speed of the ECS instances can be boosted up to 3.2 gigahertz, and it takes only just 10 minutes of time for initiating and releasing 100 instances at the time. And then we see the cost. It has zero cost in creating the instances, but for billing, like for the usage, we have the cost for using the instances that comes under the subscription, pay as you go, reserved instance, and a dedicated host and MPC. So we will see these billing models in another slide. And when we see the elastic compute, we have different purposes for using the ECS instances. We have the general purpose instances, which has this prefix of G6, which is normally used for small and medium sized databases. They are used for data processing and backend applications. And then we have the compute optimized instances, which starts with the prefix of C6. It is used for web servers, batch computing, distributed analysis, high performance STEM platforms, advertising, and gaming. And then we have the memory optimized instances, which are used for high performance databases, data mining and analysis, in memory data storage. And then for high clock speed instances, we have they are used for high performance front end applications, and then for scientific computing, for managing huge database for scientific purpose. And then we have local SSD disk instances. Those are like the instances created for the solid state drives, and these have relational database systems with NoSQL data warehouse in memory databases, and they also support the big data aspect of Hadoop and Spark clusters. We learned about this Hadoop and Spark in the previous week 4 lecture. You can go through the playlist which this video belongs to in my channel. And then we have the big data instances, which uses the MapReduce for distributed computing with the Hadoop and Spark, and they are used even for the distributed file systems. They are used for logging and data processing. And then the final type, we have the SAP instance. They are certified by the SAP, and they are normally used for extreme stability. And then they are used for resource orchestration services, and then for operation orchestration services. So these are the tools in ECS which are provided for us. And then apart from the basic elastic compute instances, we have the heterogeneous computing, which involves the usage of GPU and the FPGA. This is for high performance computing, and even we have a specified ECS instance which can be used for high performance computing separately. GPU, when we can normally see in our laptops or our computers, normally people when they buy for usage for gaming specifically, and then for some research involved in deep learning, they used to have the GPU like the graphics card like NVIDIA, or and then we go for the RTX or GTX series or like the Quadro series and all those things, and then we go for the FPGA board. So this GPU based instances which we can create in Alibaba Cloud is used for deep learning or video processing or visualization or scientific computing. And when it comes to FPGA based systems, they are used for genome research, video encoding and decoding, image transcoding, and financial analysis. When we see about this video encoding and decoding, this is actually used for creating the game servers also. For the games in specifically, what's the purpose of having the GPU? For deep learning, we need the computation to be done parallelly. But in the case of gaming, we need the three-dimensional models to be rendered in a very short span of time, and then to decrease the amount of latency which we can face through the internet connections. It is normally used for the applications in internet, artificial intelligence, and movies. We can see like a lot of rendered graphics and animations, and then they are used in industry based AI and in energy sector. And in rendering we can see that they are normally used to create the three-dimensional model and then to create it into a live object. It is used for a process called rendering. And then in genetics it is used for the gene sequencing of objects, and it also can be used for making the bare metal instances. We have seen about the bare metal instances in the first few lectures. That is about like we create the hypervisor, on top of that we create the virtual machine, so this will directly get the connection to the basic hardware, be it hard disk or like SSD. So this has a 20% increase in the performance when compared to the traditional physical server on a container scenario. The applications include cloud native, Kubernetes on bare metal, third party virtualization, which has the kernel virtual machine and VMware, Oracle migration solution, and high performance instance. And then we have the high performance compute, which includes the supercomputing clusters. And then we have the elastic high performance clusters or EHPC. They are used for high performance website front end, data processing, backend applications, and high performance and scientific computing. And Alibaba Cloud has proven that they are having this kind of instances which with the X-Dragon servers can go up to 11.5 million orders processed per second on the 1111 sales or the single sale every year. And then in the market, they install more than 50,000 GPU cards with Alibaba Cloud, accounting more than 50% share in China. They have a lot of these kind of achievements in terms of the graphics card and the GPU based computing. As we saw like in virtualization we have the GPU based sharing also, so they also do those kind of things. Now we go directly into the elastic compute service or ECS with Alibaba Cloud. ECS or Elastic Compute Service is a computing service with a flexible processing capacity compared to the physical servers. ECS can easily manage and deploy the applications better stability and security. Actually, like when we want to have an IT infrastructure, we need to buy the computers, we need to buy the servers and all those things. And suddenly if we have a requirement to use some 100 computers within a span of like just 10 days or 11 days, and then after that those computers we don't need it. In the normal system we just buy the computers and we keep it, and then we think like whenever we need those resources to be utilized, we can use those things. But if we go unused for like couple of years and then we get their requirement, those computers will become obsolete, or like those configurations will become like a kind of outdated. I'm not saying like it is fully outdated, like it may become like a kind of outdated. In that case, this kind of buying hard devices is not advisable. So when we in the other hand, when we go for elastic compute service, we can buy for that short period of time, and when we don't need those virtual machines, we can discard them and we can release them. And it has a flexibility which also lowers the IT cost. For buying a computer or like a very fraction of one computer's cost, we can have the ECS instances running for a very short time, like within for 10 days or something like that, or even for the usage which we have. It also enables you to focus on the core businesses, and we don't need to maintain the physical infrastructure. As a result of this Alibaba Cloud ECS instances can increase the security of the system and the stability of the system, and then it will lead to the automation in creating and downgrading the IT infrastructure, and also it produces more elasticity which increases the scalability of the system. Thereby it improves a high performance network with the help of Alibaba Cloud's ECS. And when we see about the ECS with the on-premise system, in on-premise system we have the each and everything implemented by the manual intervention, like starting from networking, storage, servers, and virtualization up to the applications at the top, all are managed by human. But in terms of ECS, it follows the infrastructure as a service. So networking, storage, servers, and virtualization are already managed by the cloud provider. And by using the ECS instances, by creating these ECS instances, we can have our own operating system, middleware, runtime, and data, and various applications we can install in that ECS instance. So when I show the demonstration, you will see that how I create the ECS instance and how I install. Like it doesn't take much time to even install an operating system in one ECS. Within few minutes, you can set up one virtual machine in cloud. That's what we are going to see. So this is the visualization of the ECS virtualization, how it actually functions. We have the data centers all over the world. Alibaba Cloud has like more than 24 data centers all over the world. So in the data centers, we have the server racks, and the server racks will have the virtualization with the help of kernel virtual machines and the Zen machine. And this virtualization is aided with the help of the Zen hypervisor or the Red Hat Enterprise Linux kernel. And in the Linux kernel, we have the kernel virtual machine which will host all these ECS instances. So there we create our own ECS instance, and the ECS instance will act like a separate computer. Now this is the architecture of ECS instance. So the ECS runs on top of the Apsara distributed file system. Its virtualization technology is based on the Zen or the kernel virtual machine, and utilizes the Apsara distributed file systems Pango storage. So Pango is actually the storage which is used, and for job scheduling we have the Fusey. So in the data center we have the Linux cluster. On top of the Linux cluster we have various remote procedure calls, security management, and distributed coordination service and resource management. This Pango server will be hosted on top of this. This is the distributed file system which is available. And on top of this distributed file system, we have the products of ECS, Relational Data Service, that is the RDS, Object Storage Service, that is the OSS, Table Store, and Max Compute. So, these are managed by some open APIs which helps to connect to the applications which we create. So this is the updated view of the ECS instances which are available. Right now there are around more than 24 Alibaba Cloud regions, including the 25th in Manila. So it has 1 million customers, more than 1 million customers with a wide range of workloads, over 10 million virtual CPU cores, and they have like 110 POP nodes and 2800 content delivery network nodes or CDN nodes. uh, the storage extends up to the magnitude of tens of exabytes of storage, and more than 30 global network service partners are available as of now. The region is where the Alibaba Cloud ECS instances are created, and we choose the region to optimize the latency or minimize the cost, or even to manage the address regulatory requirements. For example, if we are located in the East Asian region, so then we can prefer to have a server from Kuala Lumpur or Singapore or Jakarta or even Manila, but you don't need to go for a server in Europe or US. So that's the thing, like you can optimize and you can choose the nearest instances which can provide your customers with the right amount of services. In case if you are running a global business, then you can have the instances in multiple regions, and then you can provide services. So anybody living in the US, they can access your ECS instance which is nearby to them, maybe in Silicon Valley. Someone from Europe, they can access the Frankfurt data center. I mean, the easiest instances you have created in that data center. You are actually free to create ECS instance in any location. So based on the location, the people will get the access. So someone from the Pacific region, they can get the access from Asia Pacific in Sydney. Now we see the differences between the zones. Zones are the physical data centers with the independent power grids and the networks within one region. As I mentioned already, that the zones are residing in the uh, regions. Regions are the main data center locations, and in these locations we have zones, separate zones. Like for example, in the region which we list here, we have the China, Hong Kong, and it has two zones listed, Zone B and Zone C, and you can choose between which zone in that particular region you would like to create. And if we create the resources in multiple zones, it has highly availability and high disaster recovery. And if it is if the resources are in the same zone, then there might be some network latency issues. Each region will contain multiple zones. There is fault isolation that can be performed between the zones. So this is a clear explanation on how the zones work. For example, if we create an ECS instance in Singapore's zone A, and we have an ECS instance with the Singapore zone B, if we want to communicate between the ECS instance in zone A to zone B in Singapore, then it is totally free of cost, because it works like a private network or like a local area network. But in the case of using an ECS instance in Singapore zone A to the Beijing zone A, then it is like from one region to another. That is, uh, an ECS instance which belongs to a zone in one region is trying to communicate with the ECS instance which is available with a particular zone in another region. It has to go through the internet gateway or the VPN gateway as well. So it includes the cost of internet traffic. So it involves some cost. An ECS instance is a virtual computing environment including CPU, memory, storage, and other fundamental components required to run a modern operating system. This is presented to the user. And ECS also provides a wide selection of ECS instance families and the types optimized to fit different use cases. As we already seen, like various categories of the normal computing and the heterogeneous computing, here also we see like the different families of different use cases, and the instance types comprise varying combinations of CPU, memory storage, and networking capacity. They are used for burstable type T6, general type G6, memory type R6, compute optimized type C6. Now we see the nomenclature of how the ECS instances are created. The values or how interpreted. The ECS instances can be divided into multiple families and types as we saw in the previous slide. An instance name will indicate both its family and also its type specification. So as we see here, this ECS G6 3x large, so it says something that it says that this is an ECS instance, and G6 says that this is the instance family. So what is this instance family? So G6 is general type. We see over here, this is the type of ECS instance. That's why we call it as G6. What is that 6 in that G6? That is the instance generation. Which generation that instance belong to? So that is, this ECS instance belong to the 6th generation of ECS. And then we have the instance type, that is the 3x large. So we have like multiple types of ECS instances in the 6th generation ECS instance itself. It starts from large, x large, 2x large, 3x large, and even it goes up to like 6x large also. So based on your your requirement, you can create the type of ECS instance you want. Now we see the ECS instance families. We see like on how to create choose the right ECS type for our workload. So we have like this basic CPU based computing, then we have like enterprise CPU based computing, and then we have like heterogeneous based computing ECS instances. So in the basic CPU based computing, we have only one family, that is the T6 or S6. We call it as burstable or shared instances. They are normally used for some small websites, some static websites, and some small web application, and they are used for the development and the test environments and for the microservices. When it comes to the enterprise CPU based systems, there is a large category. Firstly, it has the enterprise instance families for general purpose compute intensive workloads. In that category, we have the general purpose G5 and G6. It has the high performance front end fleets, web servers, batch processing, distributed analytics, high performance science and engineering apps, ad serving, and MMO gaming and video encoding. IC5 compute intensive and C5 compute are used for small and mid-sized databases, data processing tasks, enterprise applications. And in the case of enterprise instance families for big data applications, D2S big data uses map reduced jobs, that is the Hadoop, Hive and HBase, Spark in-memory computing and MLib, Elasticsearch and log analysis. And this is done by another family of ECS instance called as D1NE, which is for the big data network enhanced. In the enterprise instance families for high memory applications, we have the R5 or 6 memory optimized and RE6 memory optimized enhanced. This is normally used for high performance databases, data mining and analysis, cache service, in-memory database and enterprise applications like SAP. And then the enterprise instance families for the input output intensive applications, we have like I2 I2G input output optimized, I2NE I2GNE input output optimized system, which has the OLTP and high performance relational databases, NoSQL databases which are Cassandra or MongoDB, search applications like Elasticsearch. And then the enterprise instance families for high clock speed applications, we have the category of H, that is a high clock speed. Three types of data are here. We have like HFC6 high frequency compute, high frequency general purpose, that is HFG6, HFR6, that is a high frequency memory intensive, good for applications requiring a very high clock speed such as automated trading or some gaming applications. And then for the heterogeneous computing, we have the GPU or FPGA based ECS families. In the enterprise instance families for workloads which requires a GPU, we have the VGN6i, which is the lightweight compute with GPU. It is used for the real-time online rendering for the cloud-based gaming. So here we can make use of the cloud-based gaming servers. And then for deep learning or machine learning, and even it is used for augmented reality and virtual reality. And in the same category, we have the GN6i, which is the compute optimized with GPU. This is used for machine learning, rendering the three-dimensional model in graphics, and then for GPU accelerated databases. And we have the GN6V compute optimized with the GPU. This is used for the deep learning, voice recognition, other AI applications, and even for scientific computing and computational finance. Computational finance needs a lot of capacity for computation with like a huge amount of transaction data to be processed at one particular instance. So we require the assistance of GPU based computing. This is also done by using the GN6E compute optimized with the GPU. These are the enterprise instance families with the GPU, and there is only one type for enterprise instance families for the workloads which requires an FPGA board. So that includes F3 compute optimized with the FPGA. This is normally used for deep learning, financial analysis, genomics, which includes the gene sequencing, real-time video processing or recognition, other tasks requiring special purpose hardware, and then for photo transcoding. For example, some JPEG to other format conversion. Like if you want to process like a huge data picture to another better resolution or something like that, we need the FPGA. Now we come to the ECS instances billing model. We have the pay as you go, that is the pay-G model. That is like we pay for the compute capacity by seconds, like how many seconds we are using. Based on that we will be paying that ECS instance, and it bills you only for the actual resource usage. If you are not using the ECS instance, you will not be charged anything, and there is no long-term commitments or upfront payments for that purpose. And when it comes to the subscription, we need to pay for a particular week or a month or even a year. Like it has some 85% discount when it compared with the pay pricing. But still, if you are using the ECS instances 24/7 for months or for year, this is much needed. It is available in monthly or yearly subscription. It is suited for those with stable or long-term resource usage. And then we have the preemptible instance. The price of the preemptible instances varies depending on the supply and the demand. That is the bid-based pricing. The preemptive instances are offered a lower price when compared to the pay-G instances. But the problem is that Alibaba Cloud gives you the preemptible instances which are lower than the current instance cost. But the thing is, like for the first 1 hour we have that particular special price, and then when it goes more than that particular time, then we need to pay like the pay-G instance pricing. So it's better to look into the pay-G mode. When I demonstrate, I will show the pay-G only. Now we go into the demonstration of elastic compute service. So when we go into Alibaba Cloud, so we need to log in. So I just enter my username and my password, and it requires me to verify. Okay, so when I go into this home page of Alibaba Cloud, it shows me the these menus, and here you can see like account management, billing, messages and tickets. If I go to the account management, it shows like the account ID. When you are going to take Alibaba Cloud's training or anything like that, they will be asking your account ID. This is where you need to come and take your account ID. So the number will be present in your account management. So you just go to the login page and then click on this account manager. You will end up over here. So here we have the account ID. So you just need to select this one and then give it to them. They will give you the learning materials and lot many transactions you can have during the training. It can be done through this one. Okay, so now we just go to see on how to create an ECS instance. We see the console over here. This is where we need to go. But before that, I would like to show you the billing on how I am billed by the Alibaba Cloud for creating the ECS instances. You can see like various months and when I have created and when I have used the ECS instances, and it shows like the payment method and all those things. And I actually use one bank debit card which doesn't have much balance, because I'm an educator, so I'm not using this for commercial purpose, but for using this cloud systems, I actually need some credits, like some few dollars I need. I mean I actually keep like some meager amount, like some $10 or $15 in that debit card balance, so I can use it for usage of my own purpose. And now I go into the console over here. Once I click on the console, we get into a page like this. So here we can see the safety monitor. It says like the safety is 98 out of 100. And then we see like a number of ECS instances which are active is 0, RDS instances is 0. And we can see that the recently used product I have used like Elastic Compute Service, Virtual Private Cloud, Machine Learning Platform for AI, Object Oriented Storage Service, file storage of NAS. And then also it shows like the tools which I may need. It lists out like all these tools like this: Apsara DB for RDS, Server Load Balancer, Cloud Monitor, Apsara DB for Redis, MongoDB, PostgreSQL. All those we can see over here. And then if you want to see the APIs, this is the Open API Explorer, Developer Center, and all those things are available here. And then we can choose the to create the ECS by clicking on the recently used product of ECS, or this ECS over here which is recommended for us. And also we can even search from this search bar. So just click on here and we just keep typing elastic and then space compute service. So when I search like this, the console entry shows that we have the Elastic Compute Service over here. So I click on this Elastic Compute Service. So it opens the new page with the ECS console. So here we see that I have no ECS instance I have running, because I normally go for creating the ECS instance and then I delete it. You can create your ECS instance and then you can use it for making use of it. So to create an ECS instance, we need to click on here. So if you are a student and if you don't have much money with you, like I don't recommend you to use your parents or like someone whose debit card is having huge amount of money, because if you make some error, then there is a risk of losing the money. So I recommend you to just use a debit card which has a very little amount of balance. So we just need to click on this ECS, create ECS instance. So here we get the console like this. So we go for the subscription or pay as you go, or preemptible instance. So if we go for the preemptible instance, it is calculating the price as 0.032 US dollar per hour. But if we go for pay as you go, it says like it calculates again, it shows like 0.122 US dollar per hour. But in the case of subscription, we say like it is taking for a month. For 1 month it charges like 58.16 US dollar. So that is the cost taken by Alibaba Cloud for 1 month. But when you go for pay as you go, it charges like 0.122 US dollar per hour. But we are using the ECS instances for few minutes, so it will take very fraction of this amount. That's why I'm going to show you. So here we can choose the various data centers. So here in the billing method, we have chosen what kind of method we can go for, and then in the region we can choose like what region we need. Normally, we those who live outside the mainland China, we are not allowed to create an ECS instance in the Chinese mainland data centers. They require some kind of Chinese authentication, like the Alipay or like something like that. So that's why we can ignore those Chinese data centers right now. And here it shows Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Manila, Japan, and the Europe and Americas. We see the Silicon Valley, Virginia, Frankfurt, and London. And then the Middle East and India, we have Dubai and in Mumbai. So now in this one, my nearest data center is in Malaysia. So I just click on this Malaysia. So we have chosen the region where we need the ECS instance, and then we have to choose which zone we need to create our ECS instance, whether it is zone A or in the zone B. So we can choose based on our preference. So this zone B looks like a cheaper one, so I just go for this one. So it is 0.120 US dollar. Now I choose what kind of ECS instance I need. So in the architecture, whether it is an x86 architecture or ARM processor or like heterogeneous computing or ECS bare metal instance, what are the type of architecture we need, we can create. And then here in the category, we go for the general purpose G6 or the computer or optimized C6 and M6 and the big data, local SSD, all those things. And here now I want to choose 4 CPUs with 16 gigabytes of RAM, then I go for this one. So this one has 4 virtual CPUs with 16 gigabytes of RAM memory, and the clock speed is like 2.5 gigahertz out of 3.2 gigahertz. It can go for a bandwidth of up to 10 gigabyte per second, and the packet forwarding rate is like 1 million, and the IOPS is like 42,000, and the processor which is used in the server is Intel Xeon Cascade Lake Platinum 8269CY. So these are the specification of the ECS instance. And then we need to choose what kind of operating system we need. So here we can just select. Here we have the options of Alibaba Cloud, Linux, Anolis OS, CentOS, Windows Server, SUSE Linux, and so many options are available. So from here we can choose anything. I just take the default Alibaba Cloud Linux, and in that we can choose which version of operating system which we need. So I choose the latest one. And then the disk storage, it is by default we can leave it. And if we want to have the backup of that particular ECS instance, we can create a backup over here, but I am not doing that now. So let's go to the next one, and we set the peak bandwidth. So you can just drag like this and see like what kind of bandwidth we need. I just set it to the default 5. And then the security group specification and the elastic network interface, it says like on how to assign the IP address, whether we want to auto assign the IP address. We just better go for the auto assign of IP address, otherwise we need to do the configuration. So here we, as we mentioned in the elastic sorry, the VPC, that the virtual private cloud, we have the configuration of IPv4 as well as for the IPv6. Likewise for ECS also we need to do it separately. So using this interface, we have the IPv4 and then we have the IPv6. So here we have to configure, but we don't need the IPv6 right now. So just go with the default IPv4 over here. And in the billing we can see that there are two prices. So this is the cost of ECS instance and this is the cost of internet. So for creating the ECS and working with the ECS, we need to pay like this much money per hour. And for the internet traffic, then internet cost, like the cost of data transmission for the ECS instance, it is charged with the internet traffic fees, which comes like 0.077 US dollar per gigabyte. That's, just remember, it is for 1 gigabyte. So it's like a very minimum. Then click on this next, and then here we can choose like the security options, but we can leave it like a default. and then we need to choose like what kind of group it belongs to. It belongs to a team or the company, or you can create your own tag key and you can select which one. So based on the tags you can select the ECS instances, and then you can go for the resource group and you can create a group also. And then we have like the private pool and the dedicated host. So then we click on the next, it goes to the preview. So it shows like the type of ECS instance we have created. It belongs to the server of data center from Kuala Lumpur in its zone B, and the image we are using is Alibaba Cloud Linux with the security hardening, and it is using the virtual private cloud for the networking, and the billing method is pay by traffic. So then we have the virtual switch configuration. All those are automatically done. We have not done anything with the VPC. We have not done anything with the virtual switch also. It is automatically done. And then we have like auto release and everything. So we don't need to release it automatically. We need to have the whole control of the ECS instance. And finally, we need to click on like this ECS terms of service. We need to agree, and then we can increase the quantity. This is for only one ECS instance. Suppose if we want to create two ECS instance, we need to just increase this value. So for three ECS instance it increases the cost. I better choose only one ECS instance, and then I click on this create instance. Once I click on this, it shows like some risk with the account. So then it goes, it asks some kind of submitting of ticket because of some kind of issues with my account. So if you just click on this create instance, it is automatically, it will go with the creation of ECS instance. And now I will just show you how I have given the slides. This slide is available with the video description I have given. So just have a look on this. So I just given like the step-by-step procedure on how to create the ECS instance. So here after clicking on the create instance, it will actually show something like this, and then it will show like after giving the console, it will go to this, and we see that the instance is running. And after we see that the instance is running, we can set the instance settings by using these properties. And then we have the modification of VNC password, and then for the configuration change, and also for the network and security group. So for deleting the ECS instance, we need to select that ECS instance and click on this release. But before that release, we can click release to delete it. But before that, it's better to stop that ECS instance which is running, and then click OK. So we have to click on the ECS instance, and then we have to click on the stop. After we click on the stop, we have to choose like the economical mode, that is normally used for no fees for the stopped instances, and then it will stop. We see the symbol like this. So the stopped instances can now be released. So after we click on the release, we click on the release now, and then we click on this OK. So then it will be automatically deleted. So the next week we will see about the products of auto scaling and server load balancer along with the possible demonstrations. So that's all about today's lesson for week 5 of Elastic Compute Service. So we will look forward for you to come for the next video and the next